He was 26 years old, broke, in debt, and working a dead-end job he hated. His apartment was cold, his refrigerator was nearly empty, and every time the phone rang, he feared it was a creditor. By almost every measure the world uses to judge a man's worth, Bob Proctor was a failure. He had dropped out of high school. He had no college degree, no connections, no wealthy family to fall back on. He had nothing, or so he believed. Then one evening, a friend handed him a worn copy of a book. It was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Bob almost didn't read it. But something compelled him to open the first page. And in the weeks that followed, something inside him began to shift. Not his circumstances, not yet. His mind began to shift. Within a year, Bob Proctor went from earning a few $1,000s a year to earning over $100,000. Within a few years, that number crossed 1 million. He hadn't gone back to school. He hadn't inherited money. He hadn't gotten lucky. What he had done was something far more profound and far more replicable. He had rewired the way his mind related to money. For the next 6 decades, Bob Proctor dedicated his life to understanding exactly how that transformation happened, and to teaching it to anyone willing to listen. He studied the science of the mind, the laws of the universe, and the invisible patterns that separate those who struggle financially from those who seem to attract wealth with ease. What he discovered wasn't magic. It was a method, a mental method. And in this video, you are going to learn it, step by step. Welcome to the teachings of Bob Proctor. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to generate wealth almost effortlessly while others work just as hard, or harder, and still can't get ahead, you are asking exactly the right question. And the answer, as Bob Proctor spent a lifetime proving, has very little to do with education, talent, economy, or luck. It has almost everything to do with the mind. Bob Proctor was fond of saying, "If you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand." That wasn't a motivational slogan. It was a precise description of how reality works, rooted in the science of the subconscious mind, the nature of paradigms, and the immutable laws that govern human experience. Most people approach financial struggle from the outside in. They try to change their bank account before they change their beliefs. They try to fix their income before they fix their thinking. And so they hustle, strain, and push, and wonder why the results never seem to match the effort. Bob Proctor taught something radically different, that financial prosperity begins on the inside, in the invisible architecture of the mind, long before it appears in the visible world. In this video, we are going to walk through Bob Proctor's complete mental method for financial prosperity. 7 powerful chapters that map the inner landscape of abundance. We will begin by exploring the nature of the mind itself and how it forms the invisible ceiling on your income. We will examine the role of paradigms, those deep, automatic programs that run your financial life without your conscious awareness. We will learn how to use the imagination as a creative tool, how to align emotion with desire, and how to maintain belief even when the evidence around you says otherwise. We will talk about the laws of the universe that Bob Proctor studied for decades, laws that are as real and as reliable as the law of gravity. And we will close by discussing the discipline of consistent mental conditioning, the daily practice that separates those who know these principles from those who live them. This is not passive content. This is a blueprint. Take notes, return to it often, and above all, apply it. Because as Bob Proctor always said, knowledge that is not applied dies on the vine. Let's begin. Bob Proctor built his entire philosophy on a foundational truth that most people never fully grasp. You do not have one mind, you have two. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind. They operate on entirely different frequencies, respond to entirely different inputs, and produce entirely different results. Understanding how they interact is the first essential step toward financial transformation. The conscious mind is the thinking mind. It is the part of you that reads these words, makes decisions, sets goals, and reasons through problems. It is the seat of your willpower and your logic. When you decide you want to earn more money, that decision happens in the conscious mind. It is the creative, analytical, deliberate part of your mental life. The subconscious mind operates beneath the surface. It does not think, it executes. It stores every belief, every memory, every emotional pattern you have ever formed, and it drives your behavior automatically, like an operating system running invisibly in the background of a computer. You do not consciously direct your subconscious, it simply runs the programs it has been given. Here is where it gets critical. Bob Proctor taught that your income is not primarily determined by your conscious efforts. It is determined by the programs in your subconscious mind. If your subconscious holds a belief that you are not the kind of person who earns significant wealth, it will sabotage every conscious effort you make, not out of malice, but out of pure mechanical loyalty to its programming. This explains why so many intelligent, hard-working people remain stuck financially. They are using their conscious mind to push against a subconscious program they don't even know is running. It's like trying to drive a car with one foot on the gas and the other on the brake. The effort is real. The progress is not. Bob Proctor often illustrated this with what he called the terror barrier. Whenever a person tries to move into unfamiliar financial territory, a larger income, a bigger business, a new level of abundance, the subconscious mind triggers fear. Not because the new territory is dangerous, but because it is unfamiliar. The subconscious equates unfamiliarity with danger. Most people, when they hit the terror barrier, interpret the fear as a signal to retreat. They rationalize, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not ready. And they return to the financial comfort zone their subconscious has defined for them. The comfort zone isn't comfortable because it feels good. It's comfortable because it is known. To break through, you must first understand that the fear is not a warning, it is a threshold. On the other side of that fear is the expanded version of your financial life. Bob Proctor said, "Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain." The subconscious only loses its grip when you act in spite of it repeatedly. The relationship between the two minds is not a battle to be won. It is a partnership to be cultivated. Your job is to feed your conscious mind the ideas, images, and beliefs that you want your subconscious to adopt, and then to do so repeatedly, with emotion and conviction, until those new programs take root. This is the foundation of Bob Proctor's entire method. Everything else, goal setting, visualization, affirmation, the laws of the universe, only works when you understand that the real transformation happens not in your behavior, but in the invisible programs running below the surface of your awareness. Change the program, and the behavior changes automatically. Of all the concepts Bob Proctor taught, none was more central, and none was more misunderstood, than the concept of the paradigm. A paradigm, as Bob defined it, is a multitude of habits fixed in the subconscious mind. It is the invisible governor that controls virtually every result in your life, including your financial results. Until you understand your paradigm, you are playing a rigged game. Your paradigm was not chosen consciously. It was installed. From the moment you were born, your environment, your parents, your teachers, your culture, your early experiences with money, began writing code into your subconscious mind. Statements like, "Money doesn't grow on trees," "We can't afford that," or "Rich people are greedy," didn't just pass through your ears. They settled into your subconscious and became the lens through which you see all financial reality. Bob Proctor pointed out that a paradigm is, by its very nature, self-preserving. The subconscious mind does not evaluate the beliefs it holds, it defends them. When new information arrives that contradicts the paradigm, the mind dismisses it, distorts it, or forgets it. This is why people can hear life-changing information and walk away unchanged. The paradigm filters out anything that threatens its stability. This is also why education alone does not create wealth. You can study finance, read every book on investing, and take every course on entrepreneurship, and still remain in the same financial position. Because your paradigm is not changed by information. It is changed by repetition and emotion. Information enters the conscious mind. Only what is repeated with feeling enters the subconscious. Bob Proctor described paradigms as being like grooves in a record. Every time a thought, habit, or behavior is repeated, it deepens the groove. Over time, the needle of your life falls automatically into those grooves and plays the same song, the same income level, the same financial patterns, the same results, year after year. Changing your financial life requires cutting new grooves. The most dangerous aspect of a paradigm is that it makes its limitations feel like facts. When a person's paradigm says, "I am not capable of earning great wealth," that belief doesn't announce itself as a belief. It announces itself as reality. The person doesn't think, "My subconscious is limiting me." They think, "This is just how life is." Bob Proctor taught that the first act of financial liberation is recognizing the paradigm for what it is, a program, not a truth. Your paradigm is not who you are. It is what you were taught. And anything that was learned can be unlearned. Any program that was installed can be overwritten. The process of paradigm shifting, as Bob described it, is not a single event, it is a sustained campaign. You must repeatedly expose your subconscious mind to new ideas, new images, and new self-concepts with enough emotional intensity that the old grooves are replaced by new ones. This is not a weekend seminar. It is a lifestyle. Bob often spoke about the story of the flea trained in a jar. Put a flea in a jar with a lid, and it learns to jump only as high as the lid. Remove the lid, and it still jumps the same height, not because it can't jump higher, but because it has been conditioned not to. Most people's financial lives are governed by an invisible lid they stopped questioning years ago. The invitation Bob Proctor extended to everyone he ever taught was this: remove the lid. Question the paradigm. Refuse to accept your current financial reality as the final word on what is possible for you. The paradigm can be changed. It has been changed by thousands of people who applied these principles with discipline and faith. And it can be changed by you. Bob Proctor revered the imagination. He called it the most powerful faculty the human mind possesses, and he believed that almost no one is using it correctly. Most people allow their imagination to be hijacked by their circumstances. They look at their bank account and imagine more debt. They look at their career and imagine stagnation. In doing so, they use their most powerful creative tool to recreate exactly what they already have. Albert Einstein said that imagination is more important than knowledge. Bob Proctor agreed entirely, and he spent decades teaching people how to redirect the imagination away from what is and toward what could be. Because the subconscious mind, which governs your behavior, cannot fully distinguish between a vividly imagined reality and an actual one. Feed it a new image consistently, and it will begin to organize your behavior around that image automatically. This is the principle behind visualization, not as a mystical practice, but as a precise psychological tool. When you create a clear, detailed mental image of yourself living in financial abundance, feeling what it feels like, seeing what you would see, moving through the world as that version of you, you are essentially giving your subconscious a new set of instructions. Bob Proctor was specific about how to visualize effectively. It is not enough to briefly picture a large number in your bank account and move on with your day. Effective visualization is immersive. It engages all the senses. It is emotionally charged. And it is repeated, not once or twice, but every single day, until the image becomes more real in your mind than your current circumstances. He taught that the imagination must be used proactively, not reactively. Most people only imagine in response to what they observe. They see a bill and imagine struggle. They see a competitor succeed and imagine their own inadequacy. Proactive imagination means choosing the image deliberately, deciding what you want to create and holding that image with intention, regardless of what the outer world is reflecting back to you. Bob also drew a sharp distinction between wishing and imagining. Wishing is passive. It is a vague longing for something better, accompanied by the underlying belief that it will probably never arrive. Imagination, as Bob used the term, is active and creative. It is the deliberate construction of a mental reality that you intend to inhabit. He often referenced the work of Dr. Maxwell Maltz, whose research showed that the nervous system cannot tell the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined. Athletes who practiced their sport mentally showed neurological improvement comparable to those who practiced physically. The mind rehearses reality with equal power, whether the source is external or internal. For financial transformation, this means you must begin living in your desired financial reality in your mind before it appears in your life. You must practice the feeling of abundance. You must rehearse the decisions, the conversations, and the identity of the financially prosperous version of yourself, until that version becomes the dominant image your subconscious holds. Bob Proctor warned against a common trap: using the imagination and then immediately checking the outer world for evidence of progress. When the evidence doesn't appear quickly, doubt sets in, the image collapses, and the person concludes that this stuff doesn't work. In reality, it was working, until doubt interrupted the signal. The image must be held with consistency and patience. The imagination is the workshop of the mind. Every great fortune that has ever been built in the physical world was first built in the invisible world of the imagination. Bob Proctor's message was clear: stop letting your circumstances dictate your imagination, and start letting your imagination dictate your circumstances. That is the direction in which creation flows. If the imagination provides the blueprint, emotion provides the energy. Bob Proctor taught that thought alone is insufficient to change the subconscious mind. It is thought combined with feeling that penetrates the deeper layers of the mind and begins to alter its programs. Emotion is not a byproduct of the method, it is the method's fuel. Bob drew on the work of many teachers and scientists when explaining this principle. He pointed to the fact that the subconscious mind is most impressionable in states of heightened emotional intensity. This is why childhood experiences, which are often emotionally charged, leave such deep imprints. And it is why deliberately cultivating strong positive emotions around your financial goals is not just motivational fluff, it is neurological strategy. The emotion Bob most frequently emphasized was gratitude. He taught that gratitude is one of the highest frequencies a human being can operate at, and that operating at a high frequency is essential to attracting high results. When you are genuinely grateful for what you have and for what is coming, you are sending a signal to the universe, and to your own subconscious, that abundance is your natural state. He was equally emphatic about the destructive power of negative emotions around money. Fear, worry, resentment, and desperation are not just unpleasant feelings, they are frequencies. And they attract experiences that match those frequencies. A person who is terrified of financial loss is, paradoxically, using their emotional energy to magnetize the very experience they fear most. The subconscious does not process negation, it responds to the dominant emotional signal. Bob Proctor often said, "You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are." What you are, in any given moment, is largely defined by the emotional frequency you are habitually operating at. If your habitual emotions around money are scarcity, anxiety, and frustration, those emotions become your set point, and your financial reality calibrates to match. The practice, then, is to deliberately cultivate emotions that are aligned with the financial reality you want to inhabit. This is not denial of present challenges. It is the choice to feel the emotions of abundance in advance, to practice the feeling of financial security, generosity, and freedom before those conditions are fully visible in the outer world. This is what Bob meant by acting as if. He taught a specific practice. Every morning, before the demands of the day take over, spend time in a quiet, receptive state and deliberately feel gratitude. Feel it for your current blessings. Feel it for the abundance that is on its way. Feel it as if the financial reality you desire is already present. This conditions the subconscious to expect abundance as the default. Bob also emphasized the importance of love as a financial frequency. He spoke often about the idea that money flows toward those who genuinely desire to use it for good, who love the idea of creating value, serving others, and contributing to the world. When the motivation for wealth is rooted in love and service rather than fear and desperation, the emotional signal becomes extraordinarily powerful. There is a practical neurological basis for all of this. Neuroscience has confirmed that emotion plays a critical role in memory formation, habit creation, and decision-making. Emotionally charged experiences are encoded more deeply in the brain. When you consistently pair your financial vision with strong, positive emotion, you are literally rewiring your neural architecture to support that vision. The invitation here is to become the master of your emotional life, not to suppress or deny feelings, but to choose your dominant emotional frequency with the same intentionality with which you would choose an investment. Your emotions are an investment in your future reality. Invest them wisely, consistently, and with conviction, and the returns will eventually make themselves visible in every dimension of your financial life. Bob Proctor was a devoted student of the universal laws, invisible principles that govern the movement of energy, the formation of circumstances, and the creation of results in every human life. He taught that these laws are not suggestions or metaphors. They are as precise and as immutable as the laws of physics. To work with them is to harness an almost unlimited creative force. To ignore them is to struggle against the current of life itself. The law that Bob emphasized most frequently was the law of vibration. He taught that everything in the universe, every thought, every feeling, every physical object, is in a constant state of vibration. Different things vibrate at different frequencies. And a fundamental principle of this law is that things of similar frequencies are drawn together. This is the mechanism beneath what most people call the law of attraction. Your financial life, Bob taught, is a perfect reflection of the vibrational frequency you have been habitually holding in relation to money. If you habitually think thoughts of scarcity, limitation, and lack, you vibrate at a frequency that attracts circumstances and experiences that confirm those thoughts. If you habitually think thoughts of abundance, opportunity, and prosperity, you vibrate at a frequency that draws those realities toward you. The law of cause and effect was another cornerstone of Bob's teaching. For every effect, every financial result, there is a corresponding cause. Most people spend their energy trying to change effects without addressing causes. They try to improve their financial situation by working harder, spending less, or chasing new opportunities, all at the level of effect. Bob taught that the true cause of financial results is always found in the mind, in beliefs, images, and habitual thought patterns. The law of perpetual transmutation is perhaps the most hopeful of all the laws Bob taught. It states that energy is always moving into form, through form, and back out of form. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is permanent. This means that no financial condition, no matter how entrenched, how long-standing, or how discouraging, is permanent. It is energy in a particular form. And energy can always be transformed. Bob Proctor also spoke extensively about the law of polarity, the principle that everything has an equal and exact opposite. Poverty has its opposite, wealth. Scarcity has its opposite, abundance. And crucially, where one exists, the other is equally present, not somewhere far away, but in the same space, accessible by a shift of consciousness. Financial hardship and financial freedom are not separated by years of effort. They are separated by a mental shift. The law of rhythm teaches that everything moves in cycles. There are ups and downs, expansions and contractions, seasons of growth and seasons of apparent stagnation. Bob taught his students not to despair during the down cycles, because rhythm is not failure. It is the natural breathing of the universe. The person who understands rhythm does not panic in winter. They plant in spring and harvest in autumn, knowing the cycle is always moving forward. The law of gender teaches that every seed, including every idea, has a gestation period. Just as a biological pregnancy takes 9 months regardless of how much you want it to accelerate, a mental seed of financial abundance takes time to move from idea to manifestation. Impatience and doubt are the enemies of gestation. Bob urged his students to plant the seed, water it with consistent thought and emotion, and trust the law to handle the timing. Understanding these laws changes everything. You stop feeling like a victim of circumstances and start feeling like a co-creator of your experience. You stop trying to manipulate external conditions and start investing your energy where the real creative power lives, in your own mind and in the frequencies you habitually inhabit. The universe is not random. It is lawful, and you can learn to work with those laws. Bob Proctor's ultimate message about the universal laws was this: they are working for everyone, all the time, whether people are aware of them or not. The only question is whether you are working with them or against them. Wealth is not created by the fortunate few. It is attracted by those who align their mental and emotional life with the principles that govern its creation. Start aligning, and watch what the laws deliver. Bob Proctor had a very specific and very demanding definition of a goal. A goal, in his framework, is not a realistic target based on your current circumstances. A goal is not something you already know how to achieve. A true goal, as Bob defined it, is an idea that is so big, so far beyond your current paradigm, that merely thinking about it causes fear. If the goal doesn't scare you, he said, it isn't big enough. This radically reframes the purpose of goal setting. Most people set goals they are confident they can reach, goals safely inside the boundaries of their current paradigm. Bob taught that such goals produce only incremental change. They do not require the expansion of identity, the rewiring of belief, or the development of new capacities. They are, at best, performance improvements within the same old program. The power of a truly large goal lies not in the goal itself, but in what the pursuit of it does to you. When you commit to a financial goal that is far beyond anything you have previously experienced, you set in motion a cascade of internal changes. Your subconscious begins to search for new resources, new ideas, and new opportunities, because the old programs are not equipped to handle the new target. Bob was adamant that goals must be written down. This is not a bureaucratic exercise. Writing a goal is an act of commitment, a signal from the conscious mind to the subconscious that this image is real, specific, and intended. A thought left in the mind is vague and easily displaced. A thought written on paper becomes fixed, concrete, and far more likely to engage the creative powers of the subconscious. He taught that goals should be written in the present tense, as if they are already real. Not, "I will earn $500,000 this year," but, "I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis." This formulation, which Bob borrowed from Napoleon Hill and refined over decades, engages the imagination and the emotions simultaneously. It doesn't describe a future reality, it declares a present one. Bob also emphasized the importance of reviewing your goals daily, morning and evening. This is not merely motivational ritual. It is a deliberate act of subconscious conditioning. Every time you read your goal with feeling, you deepen its impression on the subconscious mind. You make the image more vivid, more familiar, and more emotionally real. Over time, the subconscious begins to treat it as a fact rather than a wish. He warned strongly against sharing goals indiscriminately. Most people's paradigms cannot hold space for your expanded vision. When you share a large goal with someone whose subconscious is programmed for limitation, their doubt, even if kindly intended, becomes a virus. It introduces competing frequencies into your mental environment. Bob's advice: share your goals only with those who are genuinely committed to their own growth. The relationship between goals and action, in Bob's framework, is also counterintuitive. He did not believe in mapping out every step before beginning. He taught that when you hold a clear goal image with conviction, the necessary steps reveal themselves, through intuition, through unexpected opportunities, through ideas that arise in moments of stillness. The subconscious mind, once programmed with a clear target, begins to organize your perception so that the path becomes visible. Bob Proctor spoke often about the concept of C-type goals, goals so far beyond anything you have previously experienced that you have absolutely no idea how they could be achieved. He distinguished these from A-type goals, things you know you can do, and B-type goals, things you think you can do. Only C-type goals, he argued, produce genuine transformation. Because only C-type goals force you to grow beyond your current paradigm. A goal is not a destination. It is a becoming. The person you must become in order to achieve a financial goal 10 times larger than your current income is a fundamentally different person, different in belief, in identity, in habit, and in emotional frequency. Set the goal, hold the image, and trust that the process of pursuing it will change you into exactly the person capable of receiving it. Everything Bob Proctor taught ultimately came down to one question: what are you doing every day to condition your mind for financial prosperity? Because transformation is not an event. It is not a weekend seminar, a viral video, or a single flash of insight. It is a daily, disciplined practice of mental conditioning, as consistent and as deliberate as physical training. Bob himself was famous for his daily rituals. He read Think and Grow Rich every single day of his adult life, not because he hadn't absorbed it, but because he understood that the conscious mind needs constant reinforcement. The subconscious, shaped by decades of inherited paradigms, does not surrender its programs to a casual reading. It surrenders to relentless, repetitive, emotionally charged input. The first element of the daily practice Bob recommended was study. Not passive reading, active study. Engaging with the ideas of great minds. Asking questions. Making notes. Teaching what you are learning to others, because teaching requires the deepest level of understanding. Bob spent more time studying the mind than most professors spend on their specialties, and he encouraged his students to treat personal development as the most important subject they would ever study. The second element was affirmation, deliberately chosen statements that describe the financial reality you are committed to creating, repeated aloud, with emotion, every single day. Bob taught that affirmations work not through magic, but through repetition. Saying something once means nothing to the subconscious. Saying it every day, with increasing conviction and emotional intensity, begins to build a new groove, a new neural pathway, that eventually becomes the dominant program. The third element was visualization, the daily practice of sitting quietly and mentally living inside the financial reality you desire. Bob recommended at least 20 to 30 minutes of dedicated visualization daily. Not vague daydreaming, but precise, immersive, emotionally engaged mental rehearsal. See the bank statement. Feel the freedom. Inhabit the life. Do it until it feels more real than your current circumstances. The fourth element was gratitude practice, beginning and ending each day with deliberate, felt appreciation. For what you have. For what you are learning. For the laws that are working on your behalf. For the abundance that is flowing toward you even when you can't yet see it. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it is a frequency. And maintaining that frequency consistently is one of the most powerful financial practices Bob ever taught. The fifth element was service. Bob believed deeply that wealth flows toward those who are genuinely committed to creating value for others. He urged his students to ask not just, "How can I earn more?" but, "How can I serve more?" Service shifts the motivation for wealth from fear and lack to love and contribution, and that shift in motivation produces a shift in the frequencies you habitually emit. Bob also insisted on the discipline of protecting your mental environment. Just as you would not eat poisonous food, you must not consume poisonous mental content. Excessive exposure to negative news, fearful conversations, and limiting media is not just unpleasant, it is subconscious programming. Every input you allow into your mind is either reinforcing your new paradigm or reinstalling the old one. Guard the gate of your mind with fierce intentionality. Perhaps the most underestimated element of the daily practice is persistence. Bob Proctor said that most people give up on their mental conditioning practice just before the breakthrough. They work at it for weeks, see no visible results, and conclude that it isn't working. What they don't realize is that transformation in the subconscious is happening below the surface, like a seed germinating underground. The results appear suddenly, often all at once, after a period of invisible growth. The daily practice is not glamorous. It is not exciting every day. There will be mornings when you don't feel like affirming, visualizing, or studying. Bob Proctor did it anyway, for more than 50 years. And the results of his life, the millions earned, the hundreds of thousands of people transformed, the legacy that continues to spread around the world, are the testimony to what consistent daily mental conditioning can produce. Show up for the practice, every day, and the practice will reshape your life. Bob Proctor left this world in 2022, but the principles he spent a lifetime distilling did not leave with him. They are encoded in the laws of the universe, laws that have always been true, that will always be true, and that are available to every single human being who chooses to engage with them. What Bob gave the world was not a personality cult or a collection of feel-good ideas. He gave the world a map, a precise, tested, repeatable map to the inner territory where financial prosperity is born. The 7 principles we explored today, understanding the 2 minds, dissolving limiting paradigms, activating the imagination, cultivating high emotional frequencies, aligning with universal laws, setting transformational goals, and building a daily conditioning practice, are not theoretical. They are the actual steps. And every step begins with a single, courageous decision. The decision to believe that your financial life can be fundamentally different from what it has been. The gap between where you are and where you want to be financially is not made of years of struggle or decades of effort. It is made of paradigm. It is made of the invisible beliefs that have silently governed your relationship with money since before you were old enough to question them. And paradigms can be changed. Not overnight. Not without effort. But with consistency, with discipline, with the tools you now hold in your hands, they can absolutely be changed. Thousands of people who sat exactly where you are sitting, skeptical, stuck, and searching, applied these principles and watched their financial lives transform in ways they once considered impossible. The principles are not the variable. The commitment is. So here is the only question that matters now. What will you do today? Not tomorrow. Not when the circumstances are better or the timing is right. Today. Read your goal. Feel your abundance. Study the mind. Guard your thoughts. And show up tomorrow and do it again. Bob Proctor's greatest lesson was not about money. It was about consistency. The world belongs to those who show up, day after day, and refuse to let the old paradigm have the final word. You have the method. Now begin.